Hello, everyone. Welcome to Takt Planning and Progress Monitoring webinar organized by Bexel. My name is Alexander Ilic, and I'm going to be your host today. I'm a senior B manager and product specialist with over 10 years experience in project management on the large scale projects, as well as developing and assisting developers in development of software solutions in our company. As always, with our webinars, we're going to just start with a short introduction about who we are, what we do, and then we're going to go straight to the workflows, to the practical work in software solutions to show you the latest features of our software. So, who is Bexel? Bexel is international company present in 75 countries worldwide, 16 years in construction management, 20 years in software management experience, with estimated over $900 plus billion of project values managed by our software solutions, with over 8,500 projects of diverse types and sizes. We are trusted by some of the most renowned companies in construction industry all around the world, as you can see from investors, private investors, public investors, big contractors, government bodies, so all different kinds of stakeholders all around the world trust and use our software solutions. Today, the focus will be mostly on the workflows within Bexel CDE, Bexel Common Data Environment, which allows you to communicate and collaborate in an integrated BIM environment in the cloud and to more or less connect construction site with the management team and vice versa. So today we're going to jump to the workflow that allows you to first create master schedule, publish it, and share it with other participants in the integrated cloud solution to actually work on a tactical level of planning. That means to simply have ability to take a part of a strategic Gantt chart plan and to make it into high resolution and to coordinate it, having in mind all the necessities of the construction site, and then to use this tactical short-term planning in order to report progress back and to assess progress on a big picture level, let's say, of the project, and to do all the analytics that is important for the project KPIs and decision making. So let's zoom in a little bit to this workflow. So we're going to start with a workflow that is more or less familiar for the Bexel Manager users. That means to generate project schedule and to use intelligent scheduling for this process. So we're going to just quickly remind you how to use Bexel Manager advanced scheduling features, how to create schedule, how to optimize schedule in order to get the most realistic and the most optimal schedule for the planning. Of course, mentioning the abilities to share this and integrate with other solutions, both in terms of importing the schedule structures P6 or MS project, let's say, and exporting it to the same scheduling solutions. Then we're going to show you how to prepare the schedule for the process of progress tracking. Then we're going to go through the process of publishing the schedule and all the accompanied analysis to the cloud and sharing with it with other stakeholders on the project. Then we're going to simply go to the process of takt planning, to the new takt planning module, and how user is able to simply take the part of the existing master schedule and to create its own takt planning canvas in which it could micromanage and increase the resolution of the tasks and coordinate on the local level. After that, of course, we're going to go through the process of adjusting takt plans, developing takt plans, coordinating between different parties, and starting the progress tracking as the most important process within this workflow. So how people on site have ability to simply track progress and to report this progress back to the planning department. how this actual schedule is updated from different points, how it is synchronized all together in the Bexel Manager, and then how it is updated and how the results and analysis are then shared within stakeholders, and how we at the end get the up-to-date organized schedule and up-to-date animations and up-to-date um, progress analysis that will help you in decision making process on your project. And speaking about animations, this is the final result that we could achieve with this workflow. So we could have very detailed, very realistic, very well organized schedule animation representing the actual dynamics of the construction works on a project on a construction site. Of course, this is done with the integration with Unreal Rendering Engine for the higher video quality, but in essence, behind this animation is very complex data set managed by project management team. So stay tuned for some future webinar where we can dive in more into creating the animations, working with the animations, and planned versus actual animations, and many other topics relevant for this workflow. Before we proceed to the practical work inside software, I just want to introduce you the new educational document that we created that is dedicated directly to Excel CDE features and workflows. You can download this from the Excel user area for free, and you can use it to further explore the workflows we're going to talk about today, as well as some workflows that are not covered, that are not subject of today's webinar, and to simply polish your knowledge and to start implementing these advanced workflows in your everyday project management process. As I said, it could be downloaded from user area in the materials section, the first document. Also, all the steps and all the explanations are integrated within our help center of Bexel Manager webpage. So in case you simply miss some detail or you want some more detailed explanation about certain workflows, just visit our website, Help Center, or simply download this document with step-by-step detailed description of every step that you have to um, recreate in order to implement this workflow on your project. Also, one more notice, you can ask questions in the comment section, and my colleagues are going to try to respond as soon as possible to your questions. So just feel free to ask anything in the comment section of LinkedIn or YouTube channel, depending how you're watching this webinar. So the first workflow is creating the schedule in Bexel Manager using scheduling, intelligent scheduling engine. So the first step is to create zones which represent spatial structure, spatial sequence of your model. As you can see, in this case, you specify the sequence between zones, sequence between buildings, and between floors. So a simple UI to allow you to simply create these relationships. On the other hand, is creation of the methodology or the sequence of work. So how it works? It works simply by creating relationships between cost items or the groups of cost items. Of course, you don't have to create this methodology from scratch because in Bexel Manager templates under the methodologies folder, you can find one standard methodology related to uniform to cost classification system that you're able to simply import that you have in your Bexel Manager account. So you can simply go to Exchange and import it from managed templates, and you can simply choose that methodology to create your schedules for the reinforced concrete high-rise building. Of course, you have ability to a little bit customize it and to make it more practical for your project. Of course, we're not going to go in detail through the steps. You just need to combine uh, methodologies and zones in certain order. You can visit some of our previous webinars for the details or some of our um, manuals to simply see how to do that. Once you have your creation template, you simply create an empty schedule that we're going to name plan schedule for this purpose, and simply load the template that contains methodologies and zones that we previously assembled, and the schedule will be created automatically. Or let's be more precise, schedule structure will be created automatically with all the tasks and all the relationships created. So as you can see, over almost 4,000 total tasks and almost 5,000 relationships with few clicks when everything is prepared properly. And of course, you're able to switch between Gantt chart and line of balance view in order to check how optimal your schedule is from the point of location-based scheduling. What we have to do and what we can do with Bexel Manager tools, we can optimize this structure and this schedule. We can do it with updating task duration based on the productivity. We can level resources. So we have many tools to actually optimize the sequence. We're not going to cover this in today's webinar, so I'm going to just show you already optimized schedule that has completely the same structure as the one we just created, with only optimized durations, optimized resource levels, and optimized task durations by the productivity. So we're going to use this schedule as the basis for our progress checking, and we can just check a little bit. Let's say the cash flow for one of the buildings in the project, cumulative cost or S curve that looks much better than in the initial stage. We can check and go through the resources graph, through the activity graph to see how balanced our activities are on a day-to-day level. So we can see that this already looks pretty decent from the planning point of view. We're going to also check the animation to see how our sequence works, to see if it works according to technology of execution required for this type of object and for this type of structure. And we can also check the camera animation as well to make it more attractive, to check if the zoning is properly aligned, if the works are executed in the proper order as specified in the methodology, if we see that some of the tasks are simply shortened too much or extended too much, to see if it's safe for execution, if we have overlapping of some works, let's say facade and structural works in certain areas that could cause problems in execution and so on. So just the final checks before we export it to the cloud and before starting the progress tracking on this actual confirmed uh, schedule for this project. And of course, now we have prepared our master schedule, and the next step is to actually duplicate this planned schedule in order to create an actual schedule in which we're going to update the progress through task planning. So we're going to keep our planned schedule as a baseline, and we're not going to import any progress into it, and we're going to duplicate it before we start the process in order to keep the baseline uninterrupted with the progress information and to add progress data into the actual schedule. So it's you simply copy the schedule and you're ready practically to publish this schedule to the cloud. You can do it as new version or update the existing project version if you already updated the project on cloud. Of course, it will require saving prior to exporting the model to the cloud. And after you start the process, the only important thing is that you simply connect to the proper project created on cloud platform to name your project version. In this case, we can just put it some, let's say, progress tracking, let's say, and then just continue. So the basic steps in publishing to CD, either publishing the new version or updating the version, is first to choose the folder structure for your source structure. So it is always recommended to do it by building, by floor, by phase, by discipline, and not as it was actually populated from the designers. The next important step is to simply choose which properties are going to be exported to the CD. It is always recommended to simply reduce number of properties that will be published. So just to publish the properties that are essential for the workflow, you can simply on the left side select the all the categories that are relevant for the properties to be exported, and then using the right side of the screen, just pick up and search for the properties. Of course, you don't have to repeat this with every new update because you have ability to save template. And then with every new upload, you're going to simply just go and open the existing template, the one, like I saved mine here. So I'm going to just import or load template, and then the system is going to pre-select all the relevant properties for this specific project for me. So you can see okay, dozens of properties that are relevant. And we're going to move to the next step. Here you can see all the analysis that are transferred from Bexel Manager to Bexel CD. So we're going from selection sets. Again, it is recommended to simply select only the selection sets that are relevant for the workflow because we don't want too much data on our cloud. Again, the same with the custom breakdowns. The same with the clash detection jobs. So in this case, let's say we're gonna uncheck some containment clashes that are not relevant for coordination. Quantity takeoffs, again, maybe we can select all of them. Cost versions, we're gonna use only the one that is relevant, the tender one with the resources. And schedule animations, again, only the schedules that are relevant for your analysis. In this case, are actual and baseline. And also for the schedule itself or the Gantt chart, we're going to just add the schedule that was just created and optimized. So right now the model is uploaded and we go to the cloud. The first window you're going to open is a sources window where you choose which sources you want to load. You can use search here, and here comes in hand this model structure that we have just created. So you can see in this case, I'm able to simply uh, load just the parts of the model. So just certain building or certain phase of a building or just certain discipline in a certain phase of a building. So in this case, I'm going to type structural and I'm going to select all and I'm going to load complete building, but just the structural parts of the sources. I'm going to then select everything and just load the whole model in order to complete the workflow. But as I said, you have ability to simply reduce loading time by simply loading only the parts of the model that are relevant for you as a stakeholder. Okay, we're going to just quickly go through some new features of Bexel CDE. So the first one is clash detection. So right now, clash detection is published directly to the cloud. And as you can see here, user is able to simply select multiple clash jobs and to get an aggregated list of the clashes on the right side from all of these clash jobs. You can turn the clash view mode the same as in Bexel Manager, which you can control in terms if you want to see wireframe unselected elements or you want to hide them. Another important, or I would say essential new module is a schedule module. So right here, we can see our Gantt charts. From Bexel Manager, we can turn on the color coding, so the same one we have in Bexel Manager, and we can choose if we want to color code the bars and the rows or just the bars, which is for me, let's say, more practical. In this case, we also have a bunch of options to show baselines, remove baselines, show progress lines, and some other features I mean, all the details are described in the playbook I just presented to you. And another important step before going to the tech planning is grouping the scheduled tasks. What this means? This means that we're gonna group tasks in a way we want them to be organized in the tech planning. So in this specific case, because of the intelligent scheduling, our schedule is grouped with the activities first and then the zones on the lower level. We want it differently for progress tracking because it's more practical for us to have the spatial organizational levels first, buildings, floors, zones, and then the activity at the lift level. For this, we're going to use parent task levels, the task properties that we exported from the Bexel manager in the moment of upload. And we're going to simply activate the group tasks option in CDE. And we're going to simply define, let's say, okay, the parent level 3, in this case, the second level of activity is going to be our leap level in the new grouping. We're going to put our task level 1 as the first level of organization, that's the building. Then we're going to subdivide the buildings by floors, which is level 4. And then we're going to subdivide floors by phases. So right now, if I just sort everything by the start date, you can see that my schedule, the same schedule, is now organized in a way that we have spatial organization first, so the buildings, floors, phases, and then the activity at the end of our schedule structure, which is much more practical for progress tracking and working on site than if we have activity on the first and second level. So if we want to save this template in the future, we're going to just click save, and I'm going to just name it standard. And I'm going to use it in the future during my progress tracking process. I want to have my schedule organized in this way. Of course, with all these task properties, you have ability to filter them out. So let's say subcontractor, I have ability to very quickly find and identify certain tasks that are executed or are to be executed by certain subcontractor. You can do this for any other column in this Gantt chart. Okay, the next step is to go and to create the Takt plan. So the Takt plan, as you can see from some of the examples that I've already created, is actually a part of the master schedule that is transferred to a specific module named Takt planning module, where groups of stakeholders have ability to simply, let's say, take their tasks from the master schedule, put it in their own, we call them canvases, and organize them and coordinate them in a way completely independent from the master schedule. So this is intended for the short-term planning, for the superintendents on the construction site that have ability to simply take their intended tasks from the master schedule and to simply reorder and organize them in such way to simply respond to the needs of construction site. I'm going to just expand the tech planning. I'm going to turn off the properties table for now because it's going to be more practical. And I'm going to just show you some of the uh, task planning canvases that I've created. You can see that I can color code model elements and tasks by, let's say, progress. I can color code them by the task name. So I have ability to color code them by location or by the resources, which is subcontractor. So I have ability to very easily coordinate and visualize my local tasks and the elements in the BIM model. Of course, it is completely interactive. Like the Gantt chart, you have ability to simply select the tasks or groups of tasks and to select elements directly from task planning. And of course, you have ability to report progress from these canvases without need to populate progress in the master schedule. So you can work in your independent workspace. So let's go and create new canvas. I'm going to name it new excavation and foundations for this group of works, just for the excavation foundation. Just imagine that we are a group of subcontractors that needs to work on excavation and foundations for this specific project. After that, we're gonna configure task generation template. We can choose if we want to generate dependencies between the tasks, the subtasks that we create. We can use any task property for the resources. It is mostly the subcontractor. This will just allow us to organize our tact tasks to group them by the subcontractor, not only by the hierarchy of the schedule. And another option is that we have ability to subdivide any of the Gantt chart tasks by certain property. We're not going to use it right now. We're going to use it later. Right now, we're going to just save these settings, and we're going to add first tasks from our Gantt chart. So what we're going to do, we're going to simply go and identify what are the tasks that are actually going to be built by the group of subcontractors for excavation and foundations. We're going to select the tasks. We're going to select elements from these tasks. So we're going to visualize, let's say, what is the excavation uh, group of work that had to be added to this planning. So besides the excavation, we're going to also include the foundation pile tasks that are also relevant for us. So as you can see, the idea here is just to add just a handful of tasks that are, the short-term tasks for the next 2 to 3 weeks tops. So because we're going to update our canvases from time to time when our actual schedule is updated. So we're going to visualize more or less all the works that are going to be part of this specific canvas. So in this case, let's say for the piles, they're, as you can see, organized into 6 specific zones or phases. But in our construction site, this resolution of information is simply not enough because we have tasks that are spanning more than 2 weeks. So what we would like to do is we would like to subdivide these tasks into smaller zones that are easier to manage with our equipment and with our resources. So what we're going to do, we're going to simply select all the elements from these 6 groups of tasks, and we're going to add new specific custom property that we're going to call subzone. So we're going to name it a subzone. We're going to keep it in property set called pixel edit. It's going to be of the textual type, and we're not going to specify value at the beginning, and I'm going to explain why. So right now, let's say if we are planning execution of these concrete piles for the next 2 weeks, what we're going to do, we're going to simply isolate, let's say, the phase one group of concrete piles, and we have intention to subdivide these elements into 4 subzones. So from one task, we want to create 4 smaller subtasks that are easier to coordinate on site. So what we're going to do, well, simply we're going to just select portion of these elements, and we're going to specify the property subzone value to them. So we're going to select this part of the tasks. We're going to go to edit element properties, and in this case, we're going to name it like phase 1-1 or PH 1-1. So this is like a first subzone of the phase one. And we're going to do the same for the next group of elements. So we're going to try to again select roughly the same amount of elements. And we're going to again go and add the property phase 1-2. So this is the second subzone of the phase one. And we're going to repeat this for the next group of elements and the last one as well. So the idea here is that Bexel CD allows people working directly on site actually modify and enrich data and change the schedule structure directly as it fits their needs and the workflow on construction site. So if we select all the elements and just go and view properties of the selected elements, we're going to see that right now these elements in few seconds got new set of properties that could be very useful for us in the tax planning process. Now, how we're gonna actually utilize these newly added properties? Well, simply, we're gonna I'm gonna just delete this filter, and we're gonna go back to the Takt planning, to the Takt template, and we're gonna just go and type subzone, and we're gonna find the property that we just added, and we're gonna say use this property to subdivide tasks in the Takt planning to the subzones. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to simply filter out, let's say, for the next 2 weeks. So I can do it with the filter between. So I can go to start date and I can just choose 2 days between which I want to filter out uh, the model tasks. I can do that also here on the right side with the status date. We're going to do that later. This is if you really need some specific period of time, you can do it this way. So right now we just filtered all the tasks for the first month of the construction. I selected the tasks for the excavation, right click and just click generate zones. So the first, I want to see the zone structure of my future canvas, and it's going to be, in this case, completely reflected from the Gantt chart zone structure. I'm going to select the tasks again, and I'm going to simply say add tasks to plan canvas. And you can see that in this specific case, the system simply transferred these four tasks related to excavation to my specific canvas. Now we're going to go back to the foundations, and we're going to repeat the same process with this phase one pile foundations. So we're going to generate zones, and here you can see that not only one task is created, but four subzones. And the great thing is that in planning, I have ability to reorder them. So just imagine that I'm not forced to work from subzone 1 to 4. I can completely invert the sequence. Let's say because my, truck access is set up in a such way that it's better to start from that side. So I have complete freedom to organize my work sequence. I just added tasks, and as you can see, the system created four subtasks out of one task from the Gantt chart that have equal length and that are connected with finished stat relationship. So right now, what we did, we created our short-term planning for the first 3 weeks of the project. And of course, I can use color coding to identify, let's say, which elements belong to which tasks. I can, of course, switch to the location so that I can see the zones and subzones. So I can now clearly visualize all the subzones that I have created, the groups of elements that we just selected a few minutes ago, or I can just, color code it by the resource, which is a subcontractor. And since these two colors are very close, I'm going to just change the colors of these two companies, orange and green, so that I can clearly separate groups of works between these companies. As you can see, it is automatically changed in the viewer. And of course, I'm going to switch back to the location because that one is the best for visualization at this point. And as you can see, of course, I save this and I am ready to start working with my Takt planning canvas. I'm going to remove the properties. I'm going to extend my canvas size a little bit, and I'm going to start working with my canvas. So what I can do, I can modify the canvas. So let's say that, on a construction site, we figured out that this group of work for the excavation is going to take longer than what was predicted in the master schedule. So we're pushing ahead some site shoring activities that are scheduled for later. We're extending duration of the excavation activity because we just simply predicted that on-site conditions are simply requesting these small adjustments. I'm going to save these changes, and after I did this, at the end of the week, I have ability to start progress tracking. So first, I'm going to switch to the progress color coding. And as you can see, all the tasks are going to turn red because none of the task is completed or even started. And we're going to start with the progress mode and create the first progress entry for the first week. Note that you're able to track the progress in the longer periods of time, so you can simply change start and finish date, but it is recommended to work in a weekly progress entry periods because that's going to keep the process the simplest possible. So in this case, I can just add the tasks that were active that week. In this case, only one task was active, and I have two approaches. I can just simply assess the percentage completion, or I can add specific elements that were completed in this given week for this specific group of activities. So I can select the elements and isolate them in the model. So I have ability to isolate elements that are linked to this task, and I can select the group of elements that was actually executed this week, like this. And then I can simply say auto add these elements, and I can choose if I want to add or remove selected elements. So in this case, I'm adding the elements, and the system is going to automatically say how many elements are completed versus how many elements are in this specific task. Of course, if I made a mistake and I added too many elements, let's say, that are not completed, no problems. I can go and select the group of elements that were faultily selected, like this, and then just go back, right click, and say remove selected elements. So I can remove some elements that I've added. And as you can see, the color coding automatically marks those elements as incomplete. Just click the complete entry when you enter all the progress for that week. Go back from progress mode to the task planning, and of course, click save in order to save changes. And as you can see, the system is going to color code elements and it's going to color code the tasks. So the green for the completed, yellow for in progress, and red for the incomplete. Once we populated this first week, we can go back to Excel Manager and import progress directly from CD. So just click import progress and you're going to see the list of all the canvases and all the entries related to that specific schedule. So quickly as that, we got our progress entries entered in Excel Manager. They look the same as the progress entry that is entered directly in progress in Excel Manager. And in the same way, you have ability to go and to customize, let's say, resources, quantities, prices, percentages of completion. So all of this is available still as it was in the previous progress tracking method. Right now, we're just allowing the people to simply enter progress in CD and return it back with the one click of a button next to the back to the Excel Manager. We, of course, update the status date to the end of the week that was reported from the construction site, and our schedule is updated. In this specific case, since we just populated 1 week, of course, even when we compare it with the baseline, there are no significant changes in the schedule. We see some rescheduling in the few tasks, but nothing big. Of course, since we updated the schedule, the next step is to send this actual updated schedule back to CDE. So we simply go to update existing model, existing project, select the schedules in this case, and just mark the schedule that we have just updated. Click finish, and in few seconds, the system is going to upload new updated schedule with the updated progress back to CD for all the other stakeholders to use. So if you go back to the CD, you simply click update button. You would need to wait for a few minutes until the upload process is complete, and then do the update just to make sure that the update is uploaded. Of course, now we have the progress. You can see it down there in the Gantt chart. And the next step is that the people on the construction site are going to now, the next week, prepare for the next week, and they're going to adjust their planning canvas. So in this case, let's say we're going to reduce duration of this delayed task. We want to speed up to complete it by the end of the week to minimize delay. And then we're going to again go repeat the process of progress tracking and simply, select this specific task and just populate the percentages or select the elements. You can you're free to do it both ways. So with every task, you can choose to update the percentage or to simply select the elements that are completed. So in this case, we said that this is fully complete, and we can, for the sake of example, we're gonna also right away move to the next progress entry, even though it would be recommended to simply return the progress back and then update the schedule and only then work for the next week. So in this case, I'm gonna add few more tasks and mark them all as 100% complete for the site shoring, as you can see. And for the last one, which is pile foundations, I want to use a different method. I want to select those elements like this and to isolate them in the viewer. And I want to simply mark which elements are complete. So I don't want to assess the percentage of completion. I can simply observe on a construction site which elements are complete, which elements are incomplete. I can go into viewer, select their digital copies in a sense, and simply say mark these elements as completed. So I'm going to simply select this group of elements, and I'm going to go back to the task planning, to the progress entry, and say add selected elements from this specific task, and the system is going to automatically update the the completion percentage of this specific task. I'm going to go back to the task planning, click save, and I'm again ready to return my progress information back to Bexel Manager. So in the same way as we did with the excavation task. So we're going back to Bexel, repeating the process, just import progress from CD. Right now, you can see that in this canvas, we have two consecutive progress entries for 2 weeks, and we can enter them at once. Again, all the progress entries are in the progress window. I can go and edit any of the progress entries. So I can go and modify, let's say, the price and quantities of resources used to fit to reflect the real situation. On construction site, let's say reinforcing steel was more expensive this month, and let's say the crawler crane was also more expensive than what we anticipated. So this is going to affect our cost performance index. I'm going to click OK. And again, I'm going to simply update the status date. So in the same way as we did with the old version. And it's going to be, of course, reflected in the actual schedule, as you can see here in the comparison. Of course, when you return back, just repeat the same process of updating and simply continue entering progress. As you can see, what is also important part of this process is connection between task planning and other modules in Excel CD. So if I select, let's say, this group of elements, I can see they're connected with the BCFs. So if there are certain safety issues like this one, which we can open, I can see, let's say, that there are some materials improperly stored in the construction area for this specific group of elements, let's say. Or I can simply look for the approved documentation, design changes and design documentation that are relevant for this group of elements. So I can confirm if the documentation that I have is confirmed by the supervisors. I can open and access it. I can then go to the cost estimate, filter by element selection, and see exactly the quantities and prices of the materials that have to be installed into this group of elements. So very simply, I can go and in the cloud navigate to all of this information by simply selecting the elements from my canvas, from my task planning, directly from my group of tasks. And this allows me to control my work front in the best possible way. This was example for one group of works, but in one schedule, in one construction site, we have multiple different groups of works, and accordingly, we're going to have multiple canvases. So we're going to now show an example how it would look like if we create a canvas for, let's say, a facade finishing works. So we're going to use a filter in the Gantt chart, and we're going to filter out all the tasks for the facade works. And then we're going to simply, select all the parent tasks for all three buildings where we have facade, select leaf tasks, and from there, select the elements belonging to these tasks. When isolating, we're going to simply get the scope of work for the subcontractors or group subcontractors related to facade works. And of course, again, as in a case with the foundation piles, the next step is to decide about zoning. If it's going to be enough to subdivide it by the zones as in a master schedule, or we're going to need some additional subzone property to define. So in this case, we're going to again select all the elements, add the new property named subzone, specify it's a textual property, and of course, we're going to select the elements and we're going to define subzones for this group of works. So simply in the viewer, we're going to just set up the bird's eye view and use the square selection to select one side of the facade. elements and populate the value for the property. In this case, it's going to be south. And of course, we're going to hide those elements in order to make selection easier for the northern side, for western side, and for the east side. Once all location properties are populated, we're going to simply create a new canvas, and we're going to name it New Facade Works. And in the same manner as with the previous canvases, we're going to define the subcontractor as a resource, and we're going to use the same subzone property for subdividing the tasks. And of course, in the same way, we're going to simply first select all the tasks from the ground floor and generate zones. And again, in the same way, we can decide what is the proper sequence for installing the facade in this case. So in this case, we can go, let's say, from west to north to east to south. So in the clockwise manner, let's say, so we can specify this sequence and simply add tasks to this canvas and follow the same workflow for progress tracking and for workfront management that we used in the previous use cases as well. We can visualize added tasks and again color coded by location in order to see if our sequences was properly executed. Another completely different example is interior works. So for the interior works, we have much more complex task structure and we have much more complex spatial structure. So the first step here is to try to isolate the scope for the certain group of subcontractors. So in this case, we're going to simply filter out the subcontractors related to interior works in order to just identify their tasks. And for the sake of exercise, we're going to just go to one typical floor, let's say 15th floor on the tower 1 in this case, and we're going to select a group of tasks related to interior works, and we're going to isolate elements linked to these tasks. As we can see in the Properties tab, with these elements, we have additional location property that is called space type that specifies which type of apartment in the floor there is and what are the common areas. So we're going to just simply create a new canvas in the same way as we did before. We're going to just name it New Interior Works. And we're going to, this time, instead of a subzone property that we used in previous cases, of course, we're going to again set up the subcontractor as we did in the previous examples. But here we're going to use space type property, which is already populated to all the elements of the interior MAP works on this project using containment clash. You have more about this workflow explained in the playbook that I showed at the beginning of this webinar. So we're going to again go through the process of generating zones. And here we're going to see pretty complex subzone structure. So we're going to see different types of apartments in this specific case. And again, we can choose what the sequence is, if we're going to go from the lowest to the highest number, or if we can go to some specific sequence that is conditioned by the specific conditions on site. So again, we're going to select the elements after we specified the sequence of the zoning and just add canvases. And as in the previous case, we will get the subtasks with finish start relationship between them. And if we go to color coding, we can see actually how many different space types we have. We can also see that, let's say, the ceilings in this case are not subdivided by the apartment. We can just hide them in order to visualize better the spatial structure of this specific groups of works. And of course, as in previous cases, we can simply select certain zone or certain area, in this case, apartment 08. And also, very important, we can control the work front by simply going and filtering by selected elements. Let's say the cost data, so we can clearly see all the types of materials that have to be used. We can clearly see and select what are the quantities of the said materials, what are the prices of the said materials, so we can very easily plan for the look ahead, for advanced work packages, and to know exactly what is expected to be done in the short term period of planning. Of course, in the same way as with the cost, we can do it with the PCF manager. So we can simply filter out all the issues and document set and document approvals related to this group of elements. So we can see a safety issue in this case, related to the lack of protection barriers on the staircase. We can see the document sets that are linking directly relevant project documentation for that specific floor. We can see also relevant drawings, approved drawings that are attached to this type of the apartment. So the drawings for the type 08 apartment, and we can see all the details relevant for execution. So more or less, we have an integrated system in which we can connect all the necessary data. Of course, we can also go and check the clash detection as well. So we can simply select the relevant clash detection jobs and filter by selected elements. So we can just see what are the relevant clashes for this specific apartment. If we go to clash view mode, we can see exactly what are the apartment clashes, what is their priority, what is their status, and we have ability, as in the previous cases, to simply go and directly create clash BCF, and to, let's say, are preparing for the next week, we can simply, raise alarm about the clashes that were not solved properly in the proper period of time that could affect our performance on the construction site. Of course, we can request the clashes to be resolved, or simply request for the designers to give us some sort of a detail, some sort of a solution that will help us to execute these um, clashed elements in a proper way without affecting the construction site. Again, after this, in a typical workflow, of course, the next step would be also to simply, in a takt planning, uh, optimize and update this canvas. So let's say the group of subcontractors working on site would definitely go and simply reorganize this canvas in a way to make it more effective, to make it better coordinated. Uh, since now we have, instead of one big floor, we have uh, practically task for every apartment. We can then overlap some activities in a much better way than in the master schedule. So let's say when we complete one activity in first two apartments, we can already jump in with the next one in the third apartment. And we can also define our buffer zones. We can react in case, let's say, that some of these activities are simply delayed in one of the apartments. We can very easily see the impact on the next one, or reschedule everything in order not to lose precious time and precious resources, uh, and to be more efficient on a construction site. Of course, after coordinating, there's the same process that simply allows you to track the progress and to return this progress back to the Excel manager and back to the master schedule. The essential part of every project management workflow is reporting, or to be more precise, ability to collect, analyze, and present data in the best possible way. In this sense, new Excel CD BI analytics module brings completely new level of quality of reporting inside integrated CD environment. It allows users to create custom dashboards directly on CD, manipulating data directly from the CD model, and creating visuals that are related to the model elements. It allows creation of analytical dashboards on a version level, project level, or portfolio level. It brings ability to connect different data layers, to integrate the external data and to map it with the existing data and to get completely integrated project analytics. As you can see in this specific example, I have ability to very quickly change, let's say, the date or start date information from weekly to monthly level, to change my dashboards, and to of course isolate very quickly and filter out model elements based on this information. So I have ability to simply visualize in the model, let's say every week of construction or every month of construction, and to, of course, integrate it with the total cost in this case, or maybe clash detection, analysis, information, BCFs, and so on. Another important workflow is that I have ability to simply, let's say, select from Takt planning the elements that are executed and then to filter out analytics based on the selection from the model. So I have two-way communication between data and the model. Of course, there's still an integrated Power BI export from Excel Manager, where with a few clicks you have ability to simply export complete database containing all the data from your model and to simply open a customizable Power BI report integrated with a CD viewer where user has ability to simply customize it and utilize it according to the needs of the company or according to the needs of the specific project. It has full range of Power BI functionalities to simply create new analysis, to create new formulas, to calculate the data that is based on the BIM data, but is completely outside of the data layer that is within Excel Manager itself. And of course, as it is integrated with a CD, it has a huge advantage of simply visualizing and mapping the data directly to the BIM model and simply make it easier for presentation, easier for understanding for all the stakeholders on the project. And in essence, it cuts the time for the reporting significantly since simply all the data that is populated could be very easily exported and ready for presentation in very short period of time. That would be all from me today. Thank you very much for your time and stay tuned for more webinars, for more workflows in the